Why have recent Star Wars projects been so divisive? Ever since The Last Jedi came out in 2017, nobody can seem to agree on what direction Star Wars should go in. A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, this franchise was universally beloved. Now though, things aren't so simple. But are the movies and TV shows to be blamed? Or is something else causing this disturbance in the Force? Today, we'll be examining the evolution of Star Wars, exploring the divided fanbase, and contemplating where the saga should go from here. I'm Dylan, and this is The Writer's Block. Believe it or not, Star Wars was never supposed to happen. While George Lucas had always been a fan of space operas, it wasn't his intention to tell a story in an original universe. Instead, he wanted to make a movie based on Flash Gordon, a serialized sci-fi from the 1930s. Luckily for us, the rights weren't available to him, and Lucas wound up releasing Star Wars in 1977. Later retitled A New Hope, the film was an unlikely mashup of several genres. It took place in space, but was too fantastical to be considered sci-fi. The Jedi were heavily inspired by samurai, but the world that surrounded them felt like something out of a western. This bizarre combination of influences was a key part of its success. The movie was radically unique, but remained approachable because it was grounded in traditional genre storytelling. An unprecedented box office success, 2 sequels soon followed, rounding out what would come to be known as the original trilogy. These first 3 films spawned countless lifelong fans. The worlds of Star Wars were so vast and awe-inspiring, it gave people from any and all backgrounds a place where they felt they belonged. Loving Star Wars became a major part of people's identity, especially in a time where nerd culture wasn't nearly as pervasive as it is today. As a result, fans of the saga were passionate and possessive in equal measure. So when the prequels released after a 16-year wait, it's only logical that nerds everywhere would have a lot of opinions. And oh boy, did they. The negative response from critics and hardcore fans was resounding. Phantom Menace and the subsequent films were major disappointments for those who grew up on the originals. But why was that? The prequels have plenty of technical flaws, wooden acting and dated CGI among them. But I think the biggest issue longtime fans had was with the overall direction. Episodes 1 through 3 took a much more childish approach to the storytelling. Much of the thematic and emotional nuance found in 4, 5, and 6 was lost, and in its place was this guy. Suddenly, all those adults who had grown so attached to this universe were being told by its creator that this isn't for you. Whether or not a creator should be able to do that isn't for me to say, but it undoubtedly caused the first great schism of the fanbase. It's important to note though that there were people on both sides of that divide. For as many of the fans that despised movies like Revenge of the Sith, there were an equal number who revered it as the best of Star Wars. I personally preferred Phantom Menace because it's the one I watched the most, but I'm definitely one of those people who grew up loving those films. I wasn't nearly as critical of movies as I am now, and episodes 1 through 3 defined what Star Wars initially meant to me. The toys, the Legos, the DVD bonus features, these all had a major influence on me being a fan. Even after Revenge of the Sith released in 2005, other media like animated TV and video games focused heavily on the Clone Wars, which further cemented the era as an iconic and definitive piece of Star Wars history. But then
everything changed when the Fire Nation attacked.
In 2012, Disney announced that it had acquired Lucasfilm for roughly $4 billion, and that a new trilogy of movies would be produced in the near future. While some were naturally hesitant about a media conglomerate like Disney gaining a further monopoly over the entertainment landscape, fans were largely ecstatic that they'd be getting a new set of films, the first of which would be released only 3 years later. The Force Awakens was a financial success and largely appreciated by fans and critics when it first released. It played it safe, essentially copying the plot of A New Hope, but did so to comfortably reintroduce fans to the worlds of Star Wars. J.J. Abrams introduced a plethora of fascinating concepts that could be explored in later films. While Episode 7 has received a fair bit of criticism retroactively, people didn't turn on Disney until they released Episode 8. The Last Jedi, regardless of what you or I think of the film, undoubtedly created a rift among fans. Rian Johnson actively sought out ways to subvert audience expectations, and in doing so, displeased a great deal of people. To many, this didn't feel like a Star Wars movie. They felt betrayed by the sudden shift of tone and direction. Sound familiar? Much like the prequels, the film garnered a great many supporters as well. These fans, old and new, adored the bold changes made to the Star Wars formula. This, combined with the hyperbolic nature of discussion on the internet, meant that The Last Jedi is either the best or worst film in the franchise. There is no in-between.
Only a Sith deals in absolutes.
Then, in 2019, Rise of Skywalker came out, but everyone was so tired of Star Wars hot takes that it quietly made $1 billion before vanishing into thin air. The Disney trilogy created a second great schism in the fanbase for similar reasons to the prequels. Once again, we see that Star Wars means many different things to many different people. I have friends who swear by episodes 1 through 3. My mom, who saw A New Hope when it first released, loves the originals, ignores the prequels, and is fine with the Disney films. I personally am passionate about anything Star Wars and find something to love about all of the films. Each era has its own strengths and weaknesses. 4, 5, and 6 are cinematic classics, but can feel dated at times. 1, 2, and 3 have immaculate world building and story concepts, but the execution is hit or miss.
I don't like sand.
Finally, 7, 8, and 9 are visually stunning and well produced, but also form the least cohesive trilogy in the series. And that leaves us with a question. Where do we go from here? The franchise has spanned multiple generations, and the movies are meant to appeal to all ages and backgrounds. How do you produce something that makes everyone happy? Well, put bluntly, you don't. The fanbase is far too diverse to ever satisfy it 100%. Trying to do so is an exercise in futility. Thankfully, I think the direction Disney has been taking post-Skywalker saga is actually really encouraging. They've switched their focus from film to streamed television, and because of this, we're set to receive a number of projects covering vastly different characters, time periods, and situations. Like westerns? The Mandalorian is probably right up your alley. Prefer the prequels? Obi-Wan Kenobi is a great look at life after Order 66. Or maybe you prefer the war part of Star Wars, in which case Andor looks like it will be a perfect fit. Disney's television slate seems to be leaning into the fact that Star Wars is a whole galaxy. The more they diversify their content, the more there really is something for everyone. There's also much less pressure put on TV shows than film. If you didn't like Rise of Skywalker, too bad. You're not getting another movie for who knows how long. But if you don't like an episode of a Disney Plus series, you only have to wait a week for the next one. Both the prequels and the Disney trilogy buckled under the pressure from fans to make the perfect Star Wars movie. But the TV shows have the freedom to experiment in a lower stakes environment. Key creatives like Dave Filoni, Jon Favreau, and Deborah Chow are all fans of Star Wars as a whole. They're each making the type of content that they would want to see themselves, which results in a diverse array of engaging stories. They embrace the good in all 3 trilogies and really feel like they understand all types of Star Wars fans. Ultimately, the fans are the reason Star Wars is in such a weird spot.
I am what you made me.
But they are also the ones breathing new life into the franchise. I think we have to accept that what Star Wars means to you is not the same as what it means to someone else, and that's a good thing. The less we focus on trying to define Star Wars, the better. The franchise, just like the fan base, is going to evolve and change. Rather than fighting this, we should recognize that it's one of the many reasons Star Wars is so impactful. I can't say for certain where Star Wars will go next, but I do know for certain that it will keep going, and that, I think, is something we should all celebrate.